found myself wandering aimlessly in a hot, steamy jungle somewhere in the Jamaican wilderness. 50 miles from the nearest town, 100 miles to the nearest city, 1,000,000 miles from home. The sun punched its way through the trees and found a resting place on the back of my neck as sweat poured from me in proverbial buckets. Noises of all manner greeted the morning, gaining strength with each step that I took. Bugs, birds, and God knows what all else created a symphony that, while hardly singable, was music to my ears nonetheless. I stepped through the brush with a hurried carelessness that was belied only by my total lack of purpose. The only thing I knew was that I was experiencing this and had to breathe it all in, every single sweaty ounce of it. It was sadistically hot. I was completely alone. It was Christmas Day. I had to get out of New Orleans temporarily because my life had become something of an emotional joke, and I had become the punchline. When a friend suggested that we hightail it to Jamaica in order to play Santa Claus to a group of impoverished village children somewhere in the jungle, I leapt at the chance. Not only to do something that might be helpful for someone else, but by doing so, I was hoping to reawaken my soul from a long and fitful sleep. So I found myself in a small cinder block castle in the middle of a jungle with no running water and no electricity, listening at night to the sound of my heart beating and to the ache of my mind, furiously attempting to quiet the noise that had burrowed its way into my psyche. In the mornings, I bathed nude in the freshwater river that flowed past the back of the cabin, climbed a makeshift ladder to the top of a coconut tree in order to chop breakfast with a machete, and took long walks through the rainforest paradise in order to lose myself, just so I could find myself. So there I was. All was calm and all was bright. Willie, my friend, and I had plans that morning to go buy a goat that could be served up as a free Christmas feast for the villagers. It's not uncommon to eat goat there. So I had to make my way back to the cabin in time to go make the purchase. But before I left the woods that morning, I said a small prayer asking for guidance from the big man. I needed something to just let me know that everything was going to be okay. No miracles necessary, thank you. Just some sort of a message, please. I had rented a very beat-up car in order to get us to and from town when we needed, and also to maneuver us through the rainforest trails that led to the cinder block house. This car looked like hell, but it rode amazingly well through the bush and got us all over the island and back again. After Willie and I made arrangements for the feast, we drove back, slowly, to the cabin in order to prepare for the holiday ahead. On the way back, Willie spotted a Rastafarian friend of his walking along the side of the road, and we offered him a ride. Now, riding in an automobile is a big deal in the jungle, as well as a huge point of pride for the rider. And it's an even bigger deal to be seen by your peers either riding in an automobile or being dropped off from one. Willie's friend beamed from ear to ear, waving and asking me to honk the horn at a couple of friends as we passed by. He and Willie spoke about the upcoming feast and about how his life had been going. He was a content sort of man, as most of the Rastafarians there seemed to be. However, I stayed out of the conversation after a brief hello, preferring more to just drive and dwell on my troubles back home, rather than enjoy a beautiful summer-like Christmas day in the middle of paradise. After being asked to be dropped off at his home, our traveling companion pointed to some wooden sheets that had been nailed together to form a makeshift house in the middle of the brush. At first, I felt a little sorry for him, until just before he got out of the back seat of the car. He put his arm gently on my shoulder and said with the most serene look in his eyes, "Remember, man, always give thanks." Have you ever had one of those moments where everything that came before just didn't matter at all? where everything that you thought you knew and held as true was washed away by the whisper of something so simple, but yet so profound, as to mark on your soul that this is one of the clearest moments of your life. Well, I did. It was in a jungle in Jamaica on Christmas Day. Now, whenever I get down, whenever I think about my burdens or worries from this life I've chosen to lead, whenever it feels like it's all too much, I think back to Willie's friend being utterly grateful for what he had and not bitter at all about what I perceived he lacked. Remember, man, always give thanks.